Shaboogie. Alright, so today we're going to talk about our final unit of compound transformation. So far in this unit we've talked about translations. So translations we know are objects that slide. Rotation, let's talk about reflection. Reflection is when an object reflects across a line of reflection. Rotation, we've talked about an object rotating, whether it's clockwise, counterclockwise, into a new quadrant, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, so on. There, and then last week, at the last lesson we talked about was dilation, and that's basically shrinking or making an object larger based on the scale factor. So today we're going to talk about compound transformation, and basically we're not learning anything new today. All we're taking is some of the lessons that we've learned, and we're just putting them together in more than one situation. So we're going to do multiple representations of one of these guys. We're not really going to focus in on dilation when it comes to compound transformations today. Okay, so let's take a look at our first example. Okay, so here we have a triangle, and we have the following rules. We want to first translate this object, x plus 4 and y plus 1. Then we're going to reflect it across the x-axis. So we're going to have multiple moves for this object. So the first thing I want to do is follow the rules for my translation, which is x plus 4. And x plus 4 means go right. And y plus 1 means go up. So I'm going to move my object 4 spaces to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to go 1 space up. There's that dot. Next one, 4 spaces right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 space up. And then the same with the bottom one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 space up. So I have my 3 dots here for my triangle after its translation. I'm going to erase all this so we don't get confused. Okay. So my new triangle's position is located right there. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to reflect this object across the x-axis. So again, what I like to do is just highlight my reflection line, which is the x-axis. Now all I do is reflect this or flip it across this x-axis here. So I'm going to see how far away it is from the line of reflection. So it's 2 spaces here. So that means it's going to be 2 spaces on the other side of the reflection. Here again we have 2 spaces. So I'm going to move it 2 spaces on the other side. And the last point of our triangle is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be 4 spaces across the line of reflection. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and put that dot. And you can see the final place for our triangle is as follows. So we did a double transformation there to get it to its new location. We first did a translation, which means slide. Then we flipped it across the line of reflection. Okay, so take a look at the second example. Okay, so the second example, we're going to now use rotation and reflection. So the first thing we're going to do is rotate this object 90 degrees counterclockwise. So counterclockwise means we're going to go in this direction. Okay, and we're going to go, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. We're going to go in this direction counterclockwise, 90 degrees. Okay, so you can see down here, I've already turned my paper. If you want to, turn your paper, turn your iPad 90 degrees so you can see it moves up 1 quadrant up, 1 quadrant counterclockwise. You can see what the new shape is. And let's take a look at the ordered pairs. So this ordered pair would be 2, 2. So I'm going to put a point at 2, 2. The next one's going to be at over 4, up 4. And again, you have to ignore these negative numbers. They don't apply because that's not where negative numbers are on the x-axis. This will be over 4, up 2. So over 4, up 2. Then finally, the last piece of the triangle is over 4, up 4. Go ahead and put that in, over 4, up 4. There is my rotation. So I took care of my rotation. It should look like the picture I just had here that I turned 90 degrees. So the last thing I want to do is reflect across the y-axis. So I like to draw my line of reflection. is the y-axis, and at this point I do what I did before and find the distance between the line of reflection. So two spots, two spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. There's where it goes. Then draw your triangle. So here is our final object after a compound transformation. We first rotated our shape 90 degrees, then we reflected across the y-axis. Okay, so now on this page you'll notice that the compound transformation has already been made. We have our original object here and we have our new image here. And so what we need to do is we need to figure out, well, how did we get from the original location to the image using one of the transformations that we know, whether it's rotation, reflection, translation, or a combination of either one of those, any one of those. So the first thing I notice is that the shape is kind of backwards, where it's kind of facing the right side. Over here it's kind of facing the left side. So that could be a clue that it is reflection. Okay, so let's first reflect this. And what do I want to reflect it against? Well, to me, the first thing I would reflect it is the y-axis. You could find other reflection points, and it still may work out. That's fine. But the line of reflection, I'm going to use the y-axis. So I'm going to reflect that, and that's just a nice little flip across the y-axis there. So the first move I did, I'm going to write this down, is reflect across y-axis. That's number one. Now I need to get it from here to here. Well, what would be a nice logical move? Well, in this case, I think a nice little slide or translation. So my next move is going to be a translation. So 2 would be translation. And more specifically, what translation did I make? Well, I know it's going right. So that means I'm going to add something to my x. So it's going to be x plus, let's see, how many spaces does it move? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be an x plus 4. Then how many units does it go up? Well, let's see here. Here's the top. Here's the top. So I went up 1 space. So I moved my shape up 1 space. So that means y plus 1. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could go back and find other moves that also make sense. Like I could rotate this, and if I rotated it, it would look like the following. And then I can translate it from here to here. So it's possible to have more than one move to get it to its new location. As long as it makes sense, as long as you've tried it out, you should be in good shape. Okay, so take a look at the bottom one. So here I have the original image. Over here, here is my image. I want to find 2 forms of transformation that gets me from the original to my image. Now, if you want to, you can hit pause and see if you can figure this one out on your own. That's fine. I'm just going to speed the process up because I know we're in a shortened period today. So I'll give you a second or two to hit pause. Okay, and if you want to just follow along, that's fine too. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, in this case, I want to reflect across the y-axis here. So I'm going to reflect across the y-axis. So draw my reflection line. And then I'm quickly going to redraw this shape. Okay, so move number 1, reflect across y-axis. Okay, then I'm going to need to move this object from here to here. Well, translation's not going to work. Now we reflected it across the x-axis. I'm not going to get the triangle that's kind of standing up now. So how do I get this sideways triangle to get to stand up? Well, rotation might be a good idea here. And to go from one quadrant to next, that's a 90-degree rotation. And which direction am I going from here to here? Well, that is a 90-degree rotation. So that would be 2 90-degree rotation. I'm sorry, I'm running out of space, and that would be clockwise. So again, if I turn my page, I could figure that out. So if you turned your paper, you would see that you end up getting the same picture as the image that applies in the on the worksheet. Okay. So again, on these problems, you just have to try to, sometimes it's trial and error, sometimes it's more obvious than other times, so just kind of mess around with it, and basically you're just usually looking at either a reflection, a rotation, or translation, some combination in there. Okay, so let's take a look at the next examples. Okay, so take a look at number 1. It says, given the following triangle, perform each composite transformation in the order specified. The second transformation will be moving the new image. Okay, so first I'm going to go ahead and put down the points for A, B, and C. So you can see I've written down the points for A, B, and C. You can quickly go ahead and copy those down. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to move this clockwise 90 degrees. So that would mean going in this direction 90 degrees. So I want to be in the first quadrant, so moving one quadrant over. And you can see over here in the picture I have done that. Okay, so I can move this over here. You can see it would fit right here in the first quadrant. So I now want to write down the ordered pairs for A, B, and C. So let's go ahead down here and look at A, B, and C. So A, my new ordered pair would be over 8 up 6. So that would be 8, 6. B would be over 1 up 3. So it's 1 plus 1, 3. And C would be over 1 up 9. So 1, 9. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to plot these points. Oops, move this guy out of the way. So I want to plot these points. So hopefully I end up with the same picture that I have in that image there. So I'm going to go ahead and plot 8, 6. So over 8 up 6, which is right there. B is 1, 3 over 1 up 3, right there. 1, 9 over 1 up 9, right there. Draw the triangle. Here's A prime, B prime, and C prime. So you can see that it does in fact look like this picture here. Okay, so then the following thing, the last thing I want to do is reflect on the x-axis. So it's now going to reflect down across the x-axis. So, I'll hit pause. So as good practice, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to reflect it through the picture. I'm just going to look at the ordered pairs, because one of the things that we learned last week was when you reflect across the x-axis, you'll notice the x values don't change, only the y values change. For example, if I have A and I'm reflecting it down here, I stay on the same x coordinate, but my y value does change to its opposite. So if A is 8, 6, that means its reflection is going to be 8, negative 6, because it now went from the positive 8 up here to the the positive 6 up here to the negative 6 down here. Do the same thing with B prime. So it's going to be 1 stays the same, negative 3. And then C is 1 stays the same, negative 9. And when you draw the picture, you should end up with something like the following. 8, negative 6. 1, negative 3, 9, something like that. Okay. All right. Take a look at the next one, number 2. If you want, go ahead and hit pause and try this one on your own. Okay, so the first thing I notice is I have a translation rule of -1, 5, or in other words, that's subtract 1, add 5. So if I apply that to my first order pair, that's 8, negative 6, so that's 8 minus 1, which is 7, negative 6 plus 5, that takes me to a negative 1. So B, I'm going to take 1 minus 1, which is 0, and then negative 3 plus 5 is a positive 2. Take our look at C. To go from C to C prime, 1 minus 1 again is 0. Negative 9 plus 5 is a negative 4. So you can plot those, or you can change your shape as I did below. So you can see I have the green triangle there. And then I'm going to rotate counterclockwise 180 degrees. So you see I just transferred these ordered pairs down below. And one of the things I remember from the previous unit, when you do a 180 degree rotation, all your ordered pairs just go to the opposite. So that means that's going to be 7 turns to -7, -1 turns to +1, 0 stays 0, and 2 becomes -2, and C to C prime, or C prime prime I guess I should say, is 0, 4. So to flip that, you should have the following picture. So you can see what the final transformation looks like. You end up with your blue triangle here, which was rotated 180 degrees in our picture. Okay? Alright, so if there's time left in the class, you can either work on this final page here, or if your teacher passes out your review copy or your review homework, you can work on either of the following. I'll have the answers for this page in a couple seconds so you can check your work. Okay? Good luck, and good luck on the test this week.